Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and you would not believe how many Dynamax Sableye raids that I did today. Well, actually, maybe you would, because Urshifu has arrived to the world of Pokemon Go, but Kung Fu has a tough evolution requirement. To evolve to Urshifu Single Strike, you have to defeat 30 Dark-type Pokemon in either raids or Dynamax raids, and for Urshifu Rapid Strike, you're going to have to defeat 30 Water-type Pokemon in either regular raids or Dynamax raids. So I ended up doing an enormous amount of Dynamax raids over the course of 5 hours, and at long last, I now have access to the brand new Urshifu Single Strike. Urshifu Single Strike is a dark and fighting type Pokemon with the moveset of Sucker Punch, Brick Break, and Payback. It can also learn Dynamic Punch and Close Combat, but I figured the Sucker Punch, Brick Break, Payback set would end up working the best. Now, my Kung Fu did evolve over 1500 CP, so today I'm going to be testing it out in some practice Ultra League battles with members of my Discord. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Urshifu Single Strike for the very first time in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty nice lead, leading Galarian Weezing into Shadow Feraligatr. Now, Galarian Weezing has a pacing advantage in this matchup as I get to my second Sludge 2 turns before they get their second Hydro Cannon. So I am going to farm up just shy of the back-to-back Sludges after tanking the Hydro Cannon and go for Sludge number 1. That Sludge is going to be shielded. I do get the Outpace though, which is so nice because I can guarantee big damage here. My opponent, there's no way they're going to be double shielding their Feraligatr without knowing what I have. Here, my plan was to catch on the Lapras after 4 Fairy Winds, but they ended up throwing after 3. So now I send in the Lapras to absorb energy and farm down, but my opponent makes a great read. They pivot in Pangoro, realizing that if I'm leading a Fairy type, I probably don't have a good secondary check. I call the bait, get rocked with a Close Combat, and this game is going from bad to worse. I Ice Beam, they're gonna shield, and now I'm forced to send in Urshifu. Urshifu, my fast moves are very heavily resisted here by the dark and fighting typing. I'm going to look to just fire off this Brick Break right away because I need this Pangoro gone as soon as possible. I do have a shield advantage, but that Feraligatr was able to bank a Hydro Cannon before switching out. So even though I have a shield advantage, that will immediately be taken away by the Hydro. So now, I'm up a Sucker Punch, it's going to be the Zero Shield, in the back's Malamar, I farm up, I wait a turn, and I get the catch of a lifetime, and we're going to take game 1 as the Superpower is going to land on the 1 HP Lapras. Back in comes Urshifu, Urshifu unleashing Payback, down goes Malamar, we're farming down that Shadow Feraligatr, and against all odds, we're able to escape with a win. Moving into game number 2, picking up another pretty nice lead here, leading into the Golisopod. Similar situation as the Feraligatr, they do just get outpaced, but the important distinction is that Golisopod can actually survive 2 Sludges. Golisopod will go for the Aqua Jet, I'm going to fire off another Sludge, and then my plan here is I'm going to wait a turn and try and catch onto the Lapras. So I wait, I switch into the Lapras. Unfortunately, either they paused as well or my game just didn't visually update. I send in the Lapras, out comes a Malamar, and this is very, very bad for Lapras. I'm going to farm up and fire off the Sparkling Aria. I know that 2 moves will not knock out here. I will go for the Aria into the Ice Beam. It's not going to knock them out, but it will at least get them low enough that hopefully I can farm them down with one of my other mons later on. So now they are deep into the red, clocks up, no ability to switch out and catch, so I'm just going to fully sacrifice the Lapras and then bring in Weezing to farm down. But my opponent has other ideas, they're switching in Golisopod, and they're able to preserve that Malamar. Aqua Jet is going to land, in comes Urshifu, 1 Sucker Punch, and down goes Golisopod. In the back is Shadow Typhlosion, and this is not great, as I am not the tankiest Pokemon around. Urshifu actually has very similar stats to Pangoro, so it's very, very attack-weighted. Here my opponent does have the back-to-back Thunder Punches, and they have high incentive to throw back-to-back here, because if they try and throw another Incinerate, I can just Sucker Punch down. I'm making the prediction. They're switching here, so I'm just clicking the Brick Break. There's the switch, and we get it right. In comes the Malamar, and now I'm just going to have to try for another catch again. I switch into the Weezing, and I get the catch. Malamar firing off the Superpower into the Weezing, and now Urshifu gets the Sucker Punch down the Malamar and the Typhlosion. We're fighting for our lives in these early battles, but we are able to escape with the win. Moving to the next match, leading Galarian Weezing into Malamar. Pretty nice lead. I do decide to bait with the Sludge here, as I'm expecting them to respect it, but they actually don't. And that is really unfortunate. Now I wish I had just full sent the Play Rough. They're going to go for a foul play. I'm farming up, and I will fire off Sludge number 2 before they're able to get their next move. So Sludge is going to be shielded up by my opponent. They're looking for a farm down, but we're able to hang on. Very low health remaining. The high rank Galarian Weezing, I believe it's a rank 15 for the Ultra League, is barely able to survive. In comes Clefable, and I needed switch advantage so badly in this game. As Urshifu, it's going to have absolutely nothing that it can do against the Fairy type. They're going to full send a Moonblast. I'm just looking to farm up, and I know that I will need 2 charge attacks to knock out, so I will just go for Sparkling Arias in this matchup, as an Ice Beam landing would not set up a farm down. I'm actually going to get to a second Sparkling Aria here as well, really ramping up the pressure on my opponent. They are going to end up committing a shield, so it seems like whatever they have in back is not a big fan of Lapras. I'm going to be no shielding as they go for the Moonblast, and they're going to make it to another charge attack. So I will still be forced to burn my final shield, but I can overfarm. That ends up being a Meteor Mash bait. I now have a bit of residual energy on this Lapras, as I will be able to pick up the KO with the Sparkling Aria. In the back, it's another Fairy type. And this is just absolutely doomed. Oh my goodness, Urshifu just had nowhere to go. Ice Beam lands. That does quite a bit of damage. I'm going to try and catch a Sludge. Sludge catch attempt is unsuccessful. And now we'll see what they throw. They are going to throw the Sludge. Looks like they are Sludge plus Brutal Swing. They're forced to throw again. Wait, can I actually win this somehow? Can Lapras get to the move? In comes the Lapras. We're trying to get to the Sparkling Aria, but we lose charge attack priority. Against a double Fairy backline with an Urshifu, I was almost able to pull off a miracle win, but unfortunately couldn't quite do it. We see a great lead in the next match, leading Galarian Weezing into Dragonite, and they're going to save switch into Golisopod. I'm going to throw the Sludge, throw 2, switch into the Lapras, and we'll have to see, were they able to react in time? That was a pretty spot-on switch, and they did end up throwing the Aqua Jet. That works out pretty nicely. My goal now is to try and Psywave this into a range where I can knock out with the Sparkling Aria. I haven't played UL in a bit, so I'm hoping that this will be Aria range. I go for the Sparkling Aria, and I needed to Ice Beam. That's unfortunate. Ice Beam does actually do more damage. Now, I don't think I'm getting a move versus the Dragonite anyway, so I'm just going to stop tapping and let myself get lower, so that way I can limit the Dragonite farm. In comes Cobalion, and they are so weak to my Galarian Weezing. Oh my goodness. I will get a last second Sparkling Aria, which is some okay damage. Unfortunately, my Urshifu is pretty useless in the back, as obviously any kind of a fighter with a fighting move is going to be an absolute nightmare for Urshifu to deal with. I'm going to bait with the Sludge. Considering they have a Dragonite, I was very confident they'd have to respect it. Please tell me it's a Stone Edge catch. Yes, it is. And now in comes Dragonite. The only way that I lose this game is going to be if I knock out the Dragonite and then they get a bunch of farm with Cobalion. So even though I make the payback, I'm actually just going to settle for a Brick Break here because I don't want to give my opponent farm. I want to be the one to get farm. So now I can bring in the Weezing, everything they throw will be double resisted, and I will get a big farm down. Back in comes Cobalion. I baited once earlier, now I'm up a shield, so I'm never going to be baiting. I full send the Play Rough is going to land, and I'm 1 off of the Sludge, and at this point, it's just checkmate for my opponent. There's just not really anything they can do. They're going to no-shield the Cobalion, and we're able to take the game. Leading Galarian Weezing into Guzzlord, exactly where I want to be. But when they save switch Shadow Drapion, things get a little bit murky. As ideally, you would hopefully want your Dark Fighter to be able to handle the Dark Poison, but with Sucker Punch as the fast move and only Brick Break, Urshifu actually can't do the greatest there. Here I'm going to overfarm, trying for an Aqua Tail catch, but my opponent is too patient, able to hold on to their energy. They are going to get to fire off back-to-back crunches here. Crunch number 1 is going to connect, immediately followed up with crunch number 2. I can survive all these charge attacks. There's the debuff and an aggressive pivot back into the Guzzlord. Guzzlord is going to be hit with the Ice Beam, but they know there's a Fairy type in play, so they are very, very comfortable just taking a full farm down. In comes the Galarian Weezing. They throw instantly. They just want to land this damage. It is only 5 Dragon Tails. It is going to be the crunch. So now I can throw 5 Fairy Winds and then fire off the last second Sludge. Sludge easily going to be able to pick up the knockout. But my issue is they were able to save that Shadow Drapion with quite a bit of HP. I'm going to farm up here, playing to the charge attack priority time, which I am able to win. Play Rough is going to get them very low, and now we're all set up. We are going to have Urshifu up a turn and up a shield. In comes Urshifu. No, it's Galarian Weezing. Please, not like this. Oh no, I was so confident. We had the 1-turn advantage. We had the shield advantage, and we're just getting farmed down. My poor, poor Urshifu, and we're going to lose with both shields remaining. Great lead in the next match, leading into Virizion, and there's going to be another Shadow Drapion safe switch. This Drapion doesn't throw first, which is a bit odd. So by letting me throw first, they have cost themselves a Poison Sting Sneak. They are going to fire off energy here. They're actually on Sludge Bomb, which is really not great for me. I'm going to send in Urshifu, learning from my mistake from last game where I didn't burn the Urshifu on the Drapion safe swap, and they ended up having a Fairy type in the back. I know that a Brick Break will not knock out here. Brick Break, not a powerful move, so I'm going to go for the Resistant Payback. Resistant Payback is going to land, and down goes Drapion. In comes Virizion. Virizion does get the farm down. In case it's going to be another Weezing in the back, this time I'm going to be saving the Lapras. I'm going to send in my Weezing. I was worried about one turn bring-in, so that's why I didn't throw the Sludge instantly there, but realistically, I should have. In the back, it's another Fairy type, but that's not a Weezing. It's going to be a Clefable. I haven't seen a Clefable in quite a while. Primarily, the main Fairy types that I encounter are the Galarian Weezing and the Ticketon in the Ultra League. Sludge is going to grab the shield. We're farming up quite a bit, and my opponent just, unfortunately, was not aware that I was on the 4 cycle there. I try and undercharge to leave them at 1 HP, but it does still knock out. In comes a Virizion, and I can survive a Leaf Blade here, so the game is just over. My only worry is that for some reason they would be like Sacred Sword close combat, which is very, very unlikely. But on the off chance they are, then I would need to use the shield, but we're going to be able to land the Ice Beam, take the farm down, and the win. Scary lead in the next match, as I don't have a great response available for a Typhlosion. Typhlosion, I just have to stay in and play this out. Firing off the Sludge, I'm expecting my opponent will undertap here. When they don't, that actually lets me get to another Sludge. So not only am I able to force a shield, but I'm able to get very good damage. So I would call this a pretty nice success. If they Thunder Punch, I can survive, do one Fairy Wind, and then switch into the Lapras. They do Thunder Punch, but they're able to snipe down with a Malamar. That's well played from them. I send in Urshifu, but Urshifu, here's where unfortunately its pacing is going to be a bit tough. I didn't realize in the moment that I can survive a superpower. It does a lot, but I can survive it. And there, I should have just clicked Payback. I was just, unfortunately, a bit distracted by the fact that I had gotten sniped down by my opponent here with the Malabar, and I wasn't paying attention to their energy, and that ends up costing me my final shield, which now puts me in a tough spot with a loaded Typhlosion in the back. So if I see the Typhlosion, I'm going to have to pivot out here. Opponent sends in, there's another Clefable, and I just can't win this game. There's just no ability for me to win whatsoever. They're going to be able to Moonblast and then combo play with the Typhlosion. Even if I can force the shield here, it's just not going to matter. I end up CMP tying here accidentally, but even if I throw the move first, I still can't beat the Clefable because they have a shield intact, and Typhlosion is going to be able to take that win. So, some misplays in that game for sure by me, but overall, Urshifu Payback, it's a really cool move, but it does end up feeling too expensive overall, but it doesn't really have a better dark type option, as I really felt like running mono fighting charge moves would really limit me in terms of coverage. Okay, we have the battle of the Weezings in the next match. Their Shadow, mine is not, but they win charge attack priority. So I'm not going to play to the CMP tie. My opponent actually overfarms as well there. They were anticipating a catch, but I'm not going to catch. I'm just going to stay in, shield, and farm up to the back-to-back. They're going to switch into the Lapras, and I will fire off a Sludge, just because I need to get a little bit of chip damage onto the Lapras. I'm worried about Skull Bash, so I'm not going to mirror. Instead, I'm going to send in Urshifu. Urshifu not going to be particularly comfortable down energy here, as 2 Sparkling Arias will be able to knock out, but my goal here is not to win switch. If Brick Break KO'd here, I would be undercharging it, so the fact that it doesn't KO is actually perfect, because this is going to set up a really nice Psywave farm down for my Lapras, and that way their Weezing doesn't really have anywhere to go. They're going to pivot out, they're going to send in Virizion, and with Virizion, I should be in a very comfortable position, as Virizion is going to get smacked with an Ice Beam unless they shield. I can throw one Psywave, and now snipe with the Sludge. Sludge into Virizion is going to be shielded, but I'm one off another Sludge. All the energy from earlier paying massive dividends, as this Sludge will land, dealing devastating damage to the Virizion. Virizion, they easily have enough to knock me out here. If I shield, I'm just getting KO'd, so I'm just going to let this through. And now they're going to switch into the Weezing. Their only hope is that they can get to a move, but they are not able to do so. I get to fire off the Aria, knock them out, and when they send back in the Virizion, I'm just going to be shielding the first move. Because I know that I can survive a Leaf Blade here. Leaf Blade, of course, will do slightly more damage than a potential Sacred Sword. They go for the Sacred Sword, but either way, neither move is going to be able to knock me out. So they will go for the Sacred Sword, I get the farm down, and now in comes their Lapras, and I will get the Sparkling Aria. I run such a bad Lapras that instead of going for the farm down, I'll always try for the Aria because I know if they get the move, I'm always going to be winning charge stack priority. Hopping into the final match, leading Weezing into Cradily, and in this matchup, I will actually throw the Sludge right away. This concedes 2 free turns instead of the usual 1 free turn if you throw in good timing, but I would rather land some damage onto the Cradily before they can debuff me with Rock Tomb, as now, each successive attack from here is going to be doing less and less damage. So now, unfortunately, unable to make a Play Rough, I'll settle for a -1 Sludge, and they're going to go for another Rock Tomb. I know at this health range, there's no way that a -2 Sludge will knock out. So here, I'm going to go for the harder hitting Play Rough, hoping that Play Rough, even at -2, will be enough to KO. But Cradily's a tank. It hangs on. I will lose the lead, but this will set up farm for my Lapras. And I'm hoping that since they're strong to Lapras in the lead, that I can do pretty well with an up energy Lapras into whatever they have in the back. Opponent's now going to send in Blastoise. I send in Urshifu. In the back is going to be Golisopod. And this is actually feeling like a pretty solid endgame for me. I can tank the Aqua Jet and just look to farm up. They end up going for the X-Scissor here, which, to be fair, it is a new Pokemon, so people may not be familiar with the typing. And now, I'm going to go for a bait here. Surely, they have to respect it, but they don't! I do get the debuff, but what a bait call from my opponent. Oh my goodness. That is going to put me on the defensive. I'm hoping for a farm down here, but I cannot get it, so I'm forced to fire off another Brick Break on charge attack priority. The important thing is my opponent does not have a move on the Blastoise, so when they switch it in, I can now apply permanent debuffs with Brick Break. Brick Break is going to get the shield as my opponent not familiar with what Urshifu has in its charge move arsenal or the counts. I get to make it to another Brick Break. I get both shields. I throw 2, and I'm able to transfer the rollout onto Lapras. And at this point, I know that Lapras is healthy enough and they're debuffed enough that I can just win no matter what. Before they're able to raise their defense again, I'm going to go for the Ice Beam. Ice Beam less efficient, but slightly harder hitting. The Ice Beam is going to land. Even if they are at another Skull Bash, I'm going to be able to take the win with Urshifu, but it is just going to be a Hydro Cannon. We get the Psywave down, and we're able to take the win. All in all, Urshifu, at least the Single Strike variant. Obviously, I don't have a second Cub Food to try out the Rapid Strike variant. The Single Strike variant, it's pretty attack weighted. It does feel pretty fun to use. It's by no means a meta Pokemon in my eyes. It is definitely on the Glacier side of things. And typically, if you're on the Glacier side of things, you're going to hit hard, which is great, but you want really fast pacing. Something like another Dark Fighter like Pangoro. Pangoro has really consistent pacing, incredible damage, so even though it's very glassy, it can oftentimes outpace things and weave in and out of a match. Whereas I think Sucker Punch and Brick Break is actually pretty nice synergy for Urshifu, as Sucker Punch is going to do incredible amounts of damage, and Brick Break debuffs can help ramp up that damage. I think a cheaper, hard-hitting Dark-type charge move, I mean, Payback's a great move, but I think it just doesn't have great synergy with Urshifu Dark, so I think I would probably prefer to see in a future move update if it got a cheaper Dark-type charge move that could still do quite a bit of damage, but that way it wouldn't feel like Urshifu's charge moves were so expensive. All in all, I think it's a very fun anti-meta Pokemon. If you support it well, you can probably get wins with it, but I wouldn't rely on it to be a dominant competitor on any Ultra League team. I think it's more so just a Pokemon for fun, and I'll never mind a Pokemon that at least has enough solid moves that it can be a fun Pokemon to use, even if it's not meta. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.